It's often said that you can't go home again. Home isn't yet a ghost town, but it is haunted. The lives of generations almost forgotten echo on this landscape, in these buildings, their days and their bodies traded to build nations. This is the Monongahela River Valley. Before the U.S. was even a nation, this was the territory of an empire on which the sun never set. This is the territory of the Seneca Nation, led by Queen Aliquippa, the place British General Edward Braddock crossed a river and was met with his death. As he lay dying, he gave his sash to his comrade, George Washington, and asked, "Who would have thought?" He was buried in the road. This is where my family set root in America, one of the thousands coming to Andrew Carnegie's Leviathan Mill, which hasn't slept in 130 years. Think of all the nameless faces of those immigrants with little to offer but their strong bodies and indomitable will. The brown and tawny cast-offs looking for a better life in a promised land where the streets were said to be paved with gold. Working these mills, down in the bottoms, down in the valley, down the house.
My name is Ron Murad. I grew up in Braddock, right here in this spot at 13th Street and Wood. Growing up in Braddock was kind of interesting because in those days, back when I first grew up back in the 50s, right after the war, I was born in 47, this mill was really active because it had supplied a lot of industrial military might for the war effort, because the steel was critical for the war effort. And it was really busy because everybody was employed. It was a really busy time, a very busy place to grow up. You just look around and see things were constantly in motion, and there was activity everywhere.
You know, the iron and steel that came out of this region really helped the United States win World War I, World War II, and beyond. The technology put in place here truly does change the industry, and that industry goes on to change the world in very dramatic fashion. It's, often, brought up about how Pittsburgh was this arsenal of democracy, and it's true. There was a time when this blast furnace complex alone was outproducing Great Britain. This region was outproducing all the Axis powers together.
Remember, these folks came from Europe, had nothing. When they had a house, that was something for them. This was an accomplishment. You had a house, you owned property. And we're in Europe when they came out of the Austria-Hungary Empire, where my grandparents came from. That wasn't attainable for them, but here it was. Now, they worked in the mills to get that. They sacrificed their bodies and their time to do it, but they accomplished something in their life. Be realistic about it. Whenever they let the immigration open in the turn of the century, the country was developing, the infrastructure was developing, the mills needed labor, and you didn't have to be particularly smart to be a laborer. You just had to be strong and be able to take a lot of abuse. to be honest about it, take a lot of physical abuse to work in a mill. And those places were very labor-intensive, dangerous places to work.
There was a great migration from the South, and my family moved from the South to gain employment. My great-grandfather, grandfather, and father all gave their lives for a better life, for me to be here in the steel mills. Most of them left the earth early and in an agonizing way because of they were given the hardest jobs to do.
Post-war, this region, this site, become a symbol of growth for labor in the labor industry and the labor unions, where finally that pendulum swings and people are making a good living. And it's something that they feel is going to be generational and be able to move on and really find that American dream. However, time, fate, technology all of these things catch up. And by the 1970s, things start going downhill. By the 1980s, it all collapses. You can't compete with 40-some-year-old technology. In the 70s and 80s, the big competitors for the United States were Japan and Germany. Why is that? Well, during World War II, the Allies decimated, Japan and Germany's steel industry. They had thriving steel industries. And to win the war, it was a necessary thing to do. After the war, we helped rebuild. So they had newer plants than we did. So that you have Pittsburghers who could no longer live here because they couldn't support their families.
You don't stay where there's no opportunity.
Back then there were many, many houses that had just been clearly kind of evacuated and left with all the sort of the family or the person's possessions behind inside these homes. Everything they'd clearly cared for and carried with them or their family for a lifetime was left in there. And you could just walk in and out of these places, and it was incredible. There were buildings toppled over in the street, and they'd just been left there with a couple of cones around them, without, I guess, the resources of the municipality to kind of be able to even pick the building up and remove it from the streets. That was pretty wild and really striking, and it sort of captured my attention.
I grew up in Braddock, and that was during the time when the steel mills were going full force, and every store on this avenue was occupied. What happens in low-income communities? People lose hope. People lose hope.
So you're growing up in a place that is choked out in a lot of ways. And it creates a sense of always having to push and crawl and scratch to survive.
When I was young, to watch these guys work and to see them come out of the mills, sometimes it's for lunch or something, covered in grime and soot, made people sick, of course.
15, 20 years ago, I think everybody kind of wanted out or felt like, this place was incredibly challenged. There wasn't much that you could sort of take pride in here any longer, and it was hard because it was a history that people sort of felt attached to, but they didn't feel like they could connect or figure out what to do in town as it was.
And they started tearing it all down. And that's when our organization began. If you tear it all down and you take it all away, you're taking away our ability to tell our story. But what also grew up along the way was this rediscovery of the site and a reimagining of the site, something that we didn't anticipate, but has worked out to everybody's advantage. It's the Bob Ross happy little mistake. But you had people coming in and exploring this place and falling in love with it. So it moves from being a site of work to an aesthetic. But in that process, a group of artists discover this place who fell in love with places like this.
Well, the Carrie Deer sculpture is actually the second piece that my friends and I made at the site. The first piece that we made 2 years earlier was this giant owl sculpture. And eventually it led to a tragic moment, actually, where some local authorities opened fire on a teenager not connected to our artist group. They shot this kid, and not fatally, but they injured this kid, and it made the news.
Some local kids from Swissvale came down because they like to explore too, but the neighbors had been noticing people coming in, so they called the cops, the local ranking cops, and said that there were satanic rituals happening.
Yeah, of course, everything's a satanic ritual if the average bourgeoisie doesn't know what it is.
It actually kind of shook us down a little bit because we were connected to this tragic event. We kind of ducked out of the limelight of that, or the attention of that, but ultimately came back because the site is so interesting and was, in my opinion at the time, it was asking for help. It was asking for attention. Where is the owl? That's a good question. So after that tragedy, the owl was partly dismantled. After a year or so went by, we came back in and hoisted it back in. We restored it back to its position, its rightful position, and actually filmed a little B-movie style commentary on what we felt happened at the mill, and demonstrated the conflict between youth and the authorities, and it eventually became a statement of labor.
That's just teenage hocus pocus. Now, copper.
The owl obviously disrupted some type of harmony for people and decision makers, and they found it as a threatening shape or identity, so it just vanished.
Well, this building used to be my middle school, 7th and 8th grade, and I heard that it was called Unsmoke now, and they were renting out to artists. I'm gonna tell Jeb, please, you know, so I came down and I interviewed with him, and I told him how this had such a history with me. I always had my camera with me, and I remember seeing this young girl. They were very poor, and they lived on our street. Their doorknobs were dirty, everything was just, it was bad. Like, they didn't have screen doors. And I remember looking at her, and she was standing there, and all you could see was like this little teardrop going down, and she was standing there holding a purple balloon. And I just snapped it. After seeing that little girl, I thought, this town is so, like, everyone is so kind and loving down here. We all look out for one another. It's a really great community. The art scene has really come a long way.
An old Hungarian artist said, I have this space right over the hill from you. Would you like to open your studio there?
Everything just seemed like it was shutting down. There was not too much around when we first started. A lot of just abandoned buildings.
They trusted us to buy the building directly from them rather than go through the bank.
It was affordable for us because we were just starting.
The spirit's coming back again. It just has a draw, I think, to people, Braddock. It gets in your blood, and so it's a great place.
We've grown to really kind of love Braddock.
There's a great quote that says, if you don't transform your pain, you will transmit it. I learned that this community had given so much to this country and to the world. You know, skyscrapers existed because of this community. The steel that built the Brooklyn Bridge came from here. And I'm always faced with this, like, injustice, right? Like, how can a person, a place, a thing contribute so much and then be discarded? This community needed to feel loved and that it mattered. You had politicians years ago saying things like, you should just bulldoze that whole shitty town down. I was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I was raised by a single mom. And one day she was just tired of the violence. She just kind of had enough, and she came home and said we were moving, and we were off to an adventure, and we moved to New York City, settled there, kind of learning this new world. We were undocumented, we didn't speak English. The Free Store came from this idea that there is so much excess in this country, but there's yet still so much need.
Patrons go through the inside of our shipping containers that we use to display our clothing. It's probably the most fulfilling as anything I've ever done. I had 2 very successful careers. I decided I got to find something to do for the last thing I do. And we help people. We give them dignity, just a hug or talk to them.
The idea was really formed when I was 8 years old, when we had an apartment here in New York. We had no furniture in the apartment. We learned about bulk garbage day, when everyone takes out their furniture and things to the curb. And we were able to furnish our apartment entirely with what we found in the curb. This was born out of the pain of like dumpster diving and curbside shopping. And the desk I did all my schoolwork came from the curb, as did my bed, as did everything in my house. So I wanted to create an experience for that exchange to happen that was really dignified and loving. And that's what the Free Store is. It's the idea that there's some of us that have too much and some of us that have too little, and we should be working together to share.
She likes the toys. And reading books. I'm a single mom, 3 daughters. I lost my daughter last year to cancer. So I have the 2 girls now. And it's helped me a lot with like clothes and stuff when money was really tight. I didn't really have a lot of money.
Parents bring their kids down, we fix their bikes on the spot. Everywhere I go, they don't have nothing to do. Abandoned houses and drug sales all day. You give them something to do, they don't gotta pay attention to that. They just ride their bike, do something they like doing. Plus it's helping out. Man, a lot of them don't got their dads with them. Some just single moms or with their grandparents or something. So we're being a positive role model, male figure, and we're doing something for the community.
And I've been with Giselle ever since we opened the Free Store. We go down and we do a Bible study, and it is so rewarding. And just to see the changes. And a couple of them have come down here and brought their mother for me to meet, because what they needed was a helping hand, just somebody to care about them. So they made their mistake, they got out there on the drugs, but they're still people, they still need love. And love is the answer. Love is the answer.
Your activism can be really different. I'll never be the loudest person in the room. And I've learned that that's okay.
I have friends and relatives that have moved away. You still here? Yeah. Do you know your neighbors? I know mine. I like to refer to Braddock as a small town with a big heart. Last year we won the Jefferson Award. Did Giselle tell you? Oh my, it was so nice. So what I did, she asked me if I would do the talk, and I was honored to do it. So I just started singing, oh happy day, when the Jefferson Award came to Braddock, PA. We had a good time, good time.
This came about because it had been empty for at least 3 or 4 years. When we first walked in, there were no walls and ceilings, and we're walking through, and typical Giselle, she's like, isn't this great? And I was like, you know what? Yes, it absolutely is. The way it's financially set up is that the Hollander building pays for itself. So the women pay, an affordable rent. You have to work with people from the community who really know it and who understand the need.
So we used to just get together at the local community space and figure out what could we do for these over 70 families who have lost, children to gun violence. The Hoop is helping out our people. First, we got a report from the coroner's office of everyone we lost, and that's how we started our work. As we reached out to a family, our family grew, and our family grew, and our family grew, and we started a grief support group once a month. I lost my mom to suicide. I lost my son to gun violence. Talk therapy on Tuesday at 2, when you're in stress every other day of the week, it doesn't work just by itself. Having this space, which is obviously filled with love, and it's so welcoming here, it doesn't matter if you're like the school teacher from Churchill who lost their son or daughter, or the woman that lives in these projects right here that lost their son and daughter. You're like so welcome and loved when you come in this door. It's like everyone, even if there's hate and racism somewhere else, you equally heal around here. Like you're equally a part of this grief, and you're equally a part of the love that we give out when we are healing.
Why Braddock is because we had those relationships here and that knowledge. We really relied on the women to tell us what they needed and how we should do it and who we needed to include. I get to be here every day, and it's just, it's a really special place.
My name is Bridget Miller, and I own Eastside Laser Center, and I run the Erase Project. I remove gang-related tattoos from people that have been incarcerated or have been involved in gangs. They can be women that have been tattooed by their owners, quote unquote. I try to remove stigma and give people a second chance. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without this building. It's a nonprofit, and it's called For Good Pittsburgh. The building is the Hollander. I've been removing gang-related tattoos for about 10 or 11 years now. I had a phone call from somebody that was working in a lockdown facility for teenagers, and they asked me if I would remove some gang-related tattoos because they were causing conflict between she and another gang member. It hurts. It feels like hot bacon grease is being poured on you. So it's not for the faint of heart.
I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, aimed up Tennessee, where I was basically raised. I ended up getting in trouble young. I went to juvenile, stayed from the age of 11, stayed till I actually turned 18 in jail. And I escaped from jail 3 times and caught my adult sentence. And I did 22 years in the state of Tennessee, 7 years in the feds. Then finally got out. After all them years, I met some woman and I came to Detroit. Myself homeless to get away from her. She was on drugs. So I came here. Actually, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I came to Pittsburgh because of that.
When I saw Dylan's face, the first thing I thought of is he's a perfect candidate. He's got a canvas that needs to be removed. I don't look at them as being somebody evil. They're just somebody that has some marks on their faces or hands or neck that need to be removed so that they can interact without being condemned.
I did my face in prison about a year before I got out. My mom died 32 days before I got out of prison. They wouldn't let me go to the funeral. And I basically did it because of that. Bridget, who's been helping me take all these tattoos off my face. So I don't want them no more. I'm trying to change.
Dylan is in the Pittsburgh prison. He was arrested for having a handgun. He was in a tussle with somebody, and the gun went off and it grazed the guy's eyebrow. There had been alcohol involved in it. Since Dylan is a felon, he's in jail. The first thing he said to me when I went to visit him last Tuesday was, I'd like to still keep working on this. I was shocked because I hadn't seen him in a couple weeks, how light the tattoos have gotten. I think it's people that end up with these facial tattoos, that a lot of them are gang related. They were a different person back then. Dylan started off at 11, so he was in a lockdown for youths, and then spent 35 years in jail. I'm running out of funds. Even if I don't have any funds, somehow I will just continue. I feel like this is what I was put on this earth for. I mean, he looks like a completely different person. I get to see the change. I get to see their personality change.
That's my son, Jeremy. He may be the strongest woman alive. We have 5 sets of low-income housing. So we have to address it. We have to be aware of that. So the school in Rankin became just a housing unit almost for young kids of color from kindergarten until 12th grade. You know, these were all the kids from the low-income housing plans that didn't have the love at home. And the school district didn't know how to give them the love there. So they all put them in this building. And it just, our violence grew.
I got shot 3 times, 1 in the head, 1 in the arm, and 1 to my butt. Out of nowhere, it just happened so fast. I was hanging with a friend. We were sitting on his porch. I was talking to him, and then I was talking to his niece. Just remember covering the girl. She didn't take no bullets, so I'm glad about that.
Well, my baby son never even got to graduate high school. You know, he was shot and killed by a 13-year-old boy who came to our school district in the gifted program and left here as a murderer. Like, here's this little boy who seen his mom get killed. His dad gave up all rights to him November 20th. He shot and killed my son November. He moved into a foster home in my community on November 20th. He shot and killed my son on November 27th. And he's just out here. He's just out here. He doesn't have a mom. He doesn't have a dad. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to my family. And it's not fair to this community.
Even before this situation happened to me, there was a lot of younger kids in the Woodland Hills School District that were getting shot and all that stuff. So for me, I just want to be able to get these kids stop them from getting into gun violence and stuff, as much kids as I can. Because you know, kids, when they don't really have nothing to do, they're going to find something to get into. So we're just trying to give them something positive and something that's going to keep them out of the streets.
You have to know the areas of operation in your community, which aren't very hard, right? Because like Kirkpatrick Street up in North Braddock, that for years was known as a violent area, you know, and even the corner store. And we, as a community, you know, a large number of us got together and we occupied the space. We closed down the cell phone store that really wasn't, you know, and we occupy the space a couple times a year now still, and now it's a safe space.
What we want to leave people with is we care about this community. We care about the kids. We care that they have as many resources as possible.
Just to see kids actually graduate high school and not have to worry about, you know, going to school with the fear of getting shot or something bad happening to them.
Sounds good. Okay.
You know, I joke that there's no perks for our volunteers. I mean, we have no real heat, no bathrooms. I mean, we're really fed by love here. And, you know, we dance a little when we get too cold. But they're here. I mean, it could be snowing and our team will be here. I'm part of this population too. You know, like I know I'm second lady now and in this role, but I'm not far removed from being a kid who was at a free store growing up.
So I began volunteering at the free store in 2012 in the month of December. So I was only 12 years old. At first I began volunteering with my mother. We're Braddock residents, and at the moment it was a way for me to keep busy, get out of the house, and just along the way it became sort of a pattern in my day just to come down to the free store and be here with my family.
When you're forced to prove that there's a need, right? Like you're hungry. You don't have to prove it to me. If you need diapers, you need them now. I'm gonna make you fill out a form and then review if you're worthy to receive these diapers.
My mother, she actually had me at a young age, at the age of 17 years old. At that time, I wish there were resources such as the Free Store to help her.
For someone to allow you into this like really lonely or scary or vulnerable place in their lives is such a gift.
I just don't want anyone else to have to go through that, what my mother went through. And thankfully she was able to make it out of that. And unfortunately a lot of people aren't that lucky to make it out of those circumstances. So any way along the lines that I can help bridge that gap, I'll come down here in any weather. I do believe that we should normalize this sense of it's okay to reuse clothes, no matter your income, no matter your occupation. We have so much waste, and the only way that we can work to sort of eradicate that waste is just normalizing things such as reusing, reducing, recycling, and I believe every community, every school should have a free store.
So what we're doing here today is pictures with Santa.
When you have a lot of pride, it's hard sometimes to accept something, you know, for free. But here we make it fun. I can remember standing in line for Toys for Tots or going for Project Bundle Up for a coat and not always feeling loved. We open it up to the community, come down today and get 2 toys and a picture with Santa. We're printing the pictures out.
In a way, this is the honor of my mom. I originally talked to her about it. She said, go for it, do it. It's a good idea. These kids need it.
Team Braddock, we promote sports and we promote just being, you know, good citizens, being really active through sports. We're promoting non-violence through it. Our main goal and vision is to get a lot of the kids from the community together with improve their athletic skills, improve their academic skills, show them that there are other ways to get to where you want to be. You don't always have to take the route that may look easier. You benefit better from the harder work.
We want to bring as many kids as possible that we can change their lives.
The community gets so filled with love, but we selfishly get filled with love too. You never truly heal, but you can really cope, you know, with the right coping skills, you can really cope through this. Yeah.
So I got my first job with the Braddock Youth Project in 2008, and from the beginning gardening was 1/4 of the programming that we did at the Braddock Youth Project, and that was when I first found my interest in gardening and realized that I eventually wanted to have a farm.
We have community gardens, so they're for the community. People can just come to the garden to take what they need, and then for the most part what we grow, we cook and we eat.
So anytime someone visits the farm or sees the farm, it's a very heavy contrast of having a steel mill in the background and diesel traffic going by, and also this urban farm. As the years have gone on, I've realized that it's more and more a possibility to have an urban farm or a collection of urban plots, especially here in Braddock, since 90% of the land is vacant lots.
First time I heard about the Braddock Youth Project was from my mom. I was desperate for a job because I needed something to take care of me, The job is money in your pocket, and plus you get to learn a whole new world of gardening. If you ever choose to make your own garden at your own home, you can learn how to do that through the gardening program.
Basically, the Braddock Youth Project just gets kids out of the streets and onto them in a positive way. You have something that you can do and you're putting your energy towards, instead of running around with friends, getting into trouble, doing things you're not supposed to be doing.
I applied to it so I could finally have a job. So it's like cooking skills, survival skills.
They say that 1 in 4 children that grow up in Braddock will develop childhood asthma, and that gives you an idea of what the air quality is in Braddock. You have the steel mill industry here, and particularly the diesel traffic that contributes to the bad air quality. Braddock's air quality never gets below the EPA's acceptable standard for a 24-hour period. So we do extensive soil testing every year, Grow Pittsburgh, and in addition, we've gotten funding, we've gotten grants to do more extensive testing of the actual tissues of the plant. Anyone who works at the farm long hours, has to be aware of the air quality, and on certain days, Grow Pittsburgh recommends that we take a break from the farm because the air quality is that bad at times. Braddock is a food desert, and it has been that way for decades. It's an intentional, it's an intentional strategy that's taken place over the course of decades, and it's a part of environmental racism and oftentimes Black and poor communities not being given investment.
What I've learned in my lifetime is that sometimes you could be a little kid sleeping at night and you're living in Braddock. Not saying that Braddock is a bad place, but out of nowhere you'll just hear gunshots. And I remember one time I was with my nephew and he was sleeping. All I heard was this engine zooming up the street going fast. And there was gunshots and I hurried up and grabbed my nephew and I had to roll off the bed because I didn't want nothing to happen to him because he's little and I want him to be able to live to his full capability. If people are getting tired of hearing that constantly over and over again, then that will make them want to participate in something to help prevent all this violence.
Before, we was inside and there was gunshots in the alleyway by Braddock Youth Project. I don't come out much.
I'm just getting tired of seeing some kids scared to go outside, and if kids do that, they go outside, then what do you think the mom is gonna think? Oh, this has been happening a lot of shootings with these kids. Every time they go out, they praying for their kid so that nothing bad happens.
Over the years, I realized that I can help inspire people. It's been great to work with the Braddock Youth Project this year with our youth market programming that Grow Pittsburgh is doing. It's great to see a group of hardworking, young gardeners that want to have a career in farming, in agriculture, and see it more and more as a possibility.
When things would go on at school, I'll come to work and it'll just take my mind off everything. Because the people I'm surrounded by are fun, they're very educated, you can learn from them. It'll take you to a different place where it's a good place to be at.
From this job, I've learned a lot of patience because some things in the garden test you and it's growing your own food and basically making your own profit. So I will definitely carry that on with me.
It made me like a bigger person, it made me a better person.
I've learned that progress takes a while. Just to see what you've worked on come to a masterpiece, it's amazing.
We didn't realize we were poor. We were just having fun as kids. Most people that are my peers, they grew up here, they go to college or they go to high school, and they find a way to leave and they never come back. My name is Sharday Jones. I am the mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania. I had a roundtable discussion with teenagers, and they said, "You're rich now, you're the mayor." I said, "No, I make $120 a month from just being the mayor." I was like, I just love my community so much that I want to leave it better than I found it. We're at a point where we can create our own identity. We have a blank slate, and I'm part of that, and I want the community to have input on what the community turns out to be. We were going to create a committee to be the gatekeeper to 51 properties that are along Braddock Avenue. As soon as we created the initiative, we were like, hey, there's some entrepreneurs in the community, and it would be cool if we could give them the tools so they could also have a level playing field. There are so many people having business out of their houses, but they didn't have the paperwork to say they were a business. So we hosted bi-monthly meetings with the community, and we called it the Round Table. And we would show them how to write business plans. We would have people come in and talk about how to get capital, even if your credit isn't so great. And we would even have marketing sessions. What we thought was cool is all of this was free and all of this was for residents. So when the time comes around for the committee to select, they could say, hey, we know they're competent because we help them throughout the way.
This is the first Mexican restaurant in Braddock.
And instead of leaving and never coming back, there was an opportunity to build something completely new that isn't there. And I think more people should look at it from an optimistic point of view. I think art would be a great way to renovate the town, especially with artists that are already here, since we have amazing artists.
From my art into my clothes, it's like a mood thing for me. So like I can only legit create like paintings when I'm in like moods. Like if I'm feeling some type of way about my personal life, I'll paint about that. Like my relationships, like now that I'm older, like politics and stuff like really irritate me. I've never had that worry like ever. So like things like that, I paint a lot of very emotional paintings. And then as far as like my clothes, it's really how I'm feeling. So if you are a resident of the 15104 area, you get to utilize the studio space for free. If you live on the outskirts, it's just a $5 studio fee. It's the cheapest screen print shop in the whole Pittsburgh region, so we've been told.
Well, my family is from Braddock on my dad's side. Just feeling like being a part of this again, and you know, my dad's no longer here, my grandfather's no longer here, and it just kind of feels good to be like in that space that has a connection to them. It's limitless what we can do and what we can accomplish, and I see so much of that around this area.
God just wakes me up with my heart so full of love. I do know for 100% fact is like, no one's gonna fly in here and save us. We have to do that ourselves.
If given the opportunity, we're a resilient people. If given the opportunity, I believe that we can create our own structure. I'm talking about for the younger ones to come up in a structure where they can learn how to thrive.
There's a very strong spirit here. It's something that if you're born and raised here, you never lose it. It is part of you no matter how hard you try. It's always part of you, and it finds you. And I think it's because it took great courage, great strength, and great commitment. You had to be willing to sacrifice a part of yourself for the greater success. And it still stands with all of us.
Who would have thought? There's a Russian maxim that politicians have become quite fond of. To test what someone's made of, prod until you hit steel. Look around. What else is there?